What's up? What's up? What's up, family? Hello. Welcome to the Crime Chronicles. I'm Six, and in today's video, I just kind of want to talk to you guys about some stuff that be going through my head, you know. So I am a before I go to bed kind of daydreamer, and I get thoughts together and look through emails and all of that if I don't do that in the morning, because my AM time, like that 40-minute hour window, like as soon as I'm up, I'm the weirdest cat in the world. Like that little window is this ritualistic time for me. Like a habit is like I like to roll out of bed and do like 30-40 push-ups. I read somewhere that your blood is circulating best during that time, and it's like this best good pump. There's 100,000 different exercising remedies and strategies and stuff. That one kind of stuck out to me. I like the thought of that, and it gets my brain going, these juices pumping and stuff. So that's a thing that I do. But in the morning time is where I review my emails. I'll send out response emails and anything kind of business oriented, like phone calls. I'll get kind of prioritize that stuff, get my day in order. At night is a time of reflection also for me. You know what? I really don't reflect as much as I wind down. And how I wind down, I'm this YouTube university guy. So I'm a rabbit hole guy. No diddy. I'm a rabbit hole guy. So I will scroll and I find interesting stuff. I like to hear kind of experts speak, and I like to hear experts debate. I think it's fascinating, like this one scientific expert and this other religious guy of prowess and charisma. Those two drastically different of opinions, but learned and educated people. I like to watch that debate, and many other debate. I'm a debating guy. I just like to watch stuff. In any event, someone that I really like to watch is Mr. Dr. Neil Tyson. He's just a very knowledgeable guy, and like he speaks the language of math and of science and everything, but he can teach you and me. You know what I mean? That to me is the difference of teachers than learned people, like a wise man and a teacher. Like a good teacher can teach a collegiate student as well as a kindergartner in the delivery of their message. Anyway, Neil to me is very charismatic, and his words are easy to digest. I'm a fan of his. He has been in countless movies. He does these guest appearances, and it's always as himself, this learned expert in astrophysics. I think he has a degree in I'm gonna have all of that stuff up here. Dr. Neil deGrasse's degrees and stuff, but like he is a learned gentleman, especially on the stars. He is kind of the go-to guy in that aspect. So I have comprised, I found rather, shout out to Science 9, I found a nice compilation of Neil and him speaking these undeniable facts and speaking how he speaks with such conviction and knowledge and all of that. So I want you guys to take a look at some stuff. And this is a video that I'd like you guys to get in the comments, because there are some points, like I've kind of cropped together some points, and you know, I want to hear from you guys. Maybe there's this other side, but like there's not much that I don't disagree with this guy. Check this out.
By the way, the value of water in space is $10,000 a pound. Go into the center of a black hole, it's a singularity. All the theories say the matter occupies zero volume, thereby having infinite density. And that's kind of weird. What? No, you can't have infinite. No, that's a limit of Einstein's theory. The Newton's laws of motion and gravity worked. They worked not only for galloping horses, it worked for the moon in orbit around the Earth, and the Earth in orbit around the sun, and Jupiter's moons in orbit around Jupiter. But wait a minute, it doesn't work for Mercury. Mercury's orbit is not following Newton's laws. Is there something wrong with the data? Let's check it. Data's correct. Oh my gosh, what's happening? Einstein comes along and says, I have a new understanding of gravity and a new understanding of motion, and it accounts for this weirdness in Mercury's orbit.
What was the weirdness?
Its shape was not exactly what Newton's laws of gravity would give you. Its shape could only be accounted for when you throw in Einstein's theory of general relativity. Why? Because the sun's gravity is so monstrous, and Mercury's orbiting close enough to it, that it's being influenced by extra phenomenon going on in the universe that's the product of very high and significant gravity. Newton's laws don't stop working where they used to work. Apollo to the moon used only Newton's laws because Einstein didn't matter at those scales. The moon and Earth and rockets, we're not going fast enough for any of that to matter. But when you start going fast enough, you cannot use Newton's laws. You have to use a deeper understanding. If there's any planet that is terraformable, it would be Mars. The reason to do it is not to protect our species in case an asteroid comes and hits our Earth. That's the wrong... Fine, it makes a headline, but think about it. If you have the resources to terraform Mars and ship 1 billion people there, you have the resources to deflect an asteroid from Earth.
Right.
Okay? According to our known laws of physics.
The man said, and when I heard that, I was like, it can't be that simple of a concept. So what ran through my head was, if we've got the technology to terraform Mars, which is to make Mars more hospitable for humans, which is this big Elon Musk thing. So, and his thing in terraforming, they would have to, I'm almost sure it involves, I don't want to say what it involves because they're going to murder me in the comments, but definitely the project is, can we terraform Mars? And then Neil deGrasse is just like, laughingly, if we've got the technology to terraform Mars because of an asteroid, we have the technology to deflect the asteroid, destroy the asteroid if it came. Like, why didn't I think of that?
In the cooling universe, every matter and antimatter particle pair would have annihilated, made a photon. The photon would have cooled, and no more matter would have been made, and we would have had an entire universe of just light. Well, that is not the universe we occupy. One out of basically 1 million of these reactions, 1 out of 1 million, the photon did not make a matter-antimatter pair. It just made a matter particle.
It was very...
You're trying to find out why.
Yeah.
And I'm just saying, it is that.
How do
that
you
we have
stop
these-
a gigantic existential
Yeah, you don't have to.
asteroid?
It's go in and you deflect it.
How?
Oh, by any shove on it that's sideways?
Well, you're President of the United States.
Well, yeah,
Right?
okay.
There's a massive asteroid. It's going to crash into the world.
Yes, we have engineering plans for deflecting asteroids, and there are multiple ways to do it. You can have a gravitational tug, where you can have a spacecraft that sits just ahead of it, and the two of them will want to drift towards one another. But you take the spacecraft and put a little retro rocket, and if you get this early enough, 1 centimeter per second, tiniest amount will accumulate over time, and you just have to make it so that it overshoots Earth or undershoots Earth. In the early universe, there was so much energy, every particle could be made. So watch what happens. You have a pocket of energy, it becomes mass. The only way we know that can happen is if it becomes a particle and an antiparticle pair, matter and antimatter. So the opposite of an electron is a positron. It looks just like an electron, but among other things, it has the opposite charge of an electron, positron. Okay? Every particle has an antiparticle. In the early universe, the temperature was very hot. And above certain thresholds of temperature, what happens is matter no longer stays as matter. It can freely move back and forth.
Like a
between
gas.
Itself and energy. And we have the recipe for this. It comes from E equals mc squared. We all know that equation. It's the formal conversion recipe for matter and energy. And the c squared is the speed of light squared. It's a huge number. Little bit of mass times that huge number gives you a lot of energy. We don't experience in our lives E equals mc squared because the energy in which we're immersed is not high enough to enable matter to go back and forth between energy and itself. That's why it took so long to discover E equals mc squared and to come to terms and to come to understand it. If you take matter and antimatter and put them together, they annihilate and become pure energy, and the matter disappears entirely. You take the particles, matter, antimatter, identical particles, other than except that they're matter, antimatter, bring them together, they disappear, and that matter becomes energy, and all that's left is energy, right in that pocket, right there. Newton comes along, writes down equations of motion, equations of gravity, and kind of on a dare, he invents integral and differential calculus. Then he turned 26. This is why Isaac Newton is my man. The red spot on Jupiter, we call it Jupiter's red spot. Okay. Because that's how we roll. That thing is spots on the sun, sunspots. See? Forgive me for not remembering the name of this person who uttered this, but upon realizing, with the power of a bow and arrow, you could kill another human being without actually looking them in the eyes. And the conclusion was, that's the end of bravery. And so I thought about this. Whoa. Any tool where you can kill at a distance, that's cowardly on some level. And the progress of military conflict has been, how far away can you kill at a distance?
Well, now,
No, we're talking.
Isn't it suspicious to you that a storm there could go on for 350 years without a break, and we never have storms that go on for 350 years without a break? We don't even have storms that go on for like 6 weeks without a break.
So, first of all, these storms are, when we have storms, it's in our atmosphere, so it's gas.
Yeah.
We rotate once a day, and so that rotation creates what we call a Coriolis force, which moving air that moves from one latitude to another, actually has its direction deflected because of this Coriolis force, and this is why storms rotate in one direction counterclockwise in the northern hemisphere and clockwise in the southern hemisphere. The Coriolis force is heightened if you spin faster, okay? And so what is Jupiter? It's 100 times bigger than Earth. More than that, 10, but 1,000 times bigger than Earth. It's like, it's 10 times across, huge. So it's 1,000 times bigger than Earth. It's mostly gas. And it rotates once in about 10 hours. You want to talk about ferocious Coriolis forces? We have storms that last weeks here. Hurricanes that pick up, and they get weeks on this little speck we call Earth that has this much atmosphere on it. Go to a planet that rotates twice as fast, is 10 times as wide, 1,000 times the volume, and is mostly gas, and you're complaining that it lasted 300 years?
You are really good.
NASA's budget today is 0.4% of the federal budget. If you take $1, I will quantify it for you. Take a dollar bill, and imagine that's your tax dollar, and you can like cut it to whatever percent you want. So let's cut 0.4% off of the edge. That doesn't get you into the ink. You're still in the white border around it. All right,
Even notice they
you would
keep that dollar.
you could trim that off the dollar and pay for anything. I was asked about the movie Guardians of the Galaxy, and they asked me, well, the ships that are going through space, they make noise, and clearly does that upset you? Because in space, where there is no air, no one can hear you scream, but no one can hear you explode either, nor will you hear engines or anything. And so they said, does that upset you? And I said, I bought into the idea that this movie has a talking raccoon that shoots artillery from heavy weaponry off its shoulder. If I can accept that, I'm good with whatever else they deliver in the film. But if you really want to levitate, if this is really important to you, I tried to calculate how many cans of beans this would require. Then you got to kind of hold it in. Yeah. All right. Then let loose. Suddenly. Yeah. And in principle, for the duration of the thrust, you can levitate briefly.
What scares you most about civilization?
We're losing our capacity to distinguish what is true from what is not, what is objectively true. And the methods and tools of science are exquisitely designed to establish what is objectively true. And objective truth is, I perform an experiment, I get a result. Other people perform other experiments, get the same result. It repeats, there it is. Line up 1,000 people, give them a coin, and everybody's had flip the coin. And about half will get tails, half will get it.
So I got off of that video because it started drabbing. So just wherever it stops, and then we're gonna go to this other thing that I want to do about religion.
It's propelling itself so that part of the effort gets it back.
Jesus had to violate the laws of physics.
Correct, in order for that to be the miracle described.
Right. Yeah.
Correct.
Either that or he had really cool sandals. Just awesome sandals.
All right, so that is just some stuff, and that kind of it went some other directions. He makes some really compelling arguments with science and religion, and he's never kind of ironed out his stance. And I think his stance is similar to mine. Like, I don't discount or discredit or say that there isn't a God. The evidence shows different. The science, the proof, the facts show different to me and to my interpretation of stuff. But this is a part of like all these deep dives and stuff. So take a look at what he says about that.
People who make this case that was the beginning and that there had to be something that provoked the beginning, do you give them an A at least for trying to reconcile faith and reason?
I don't think they're reconcilable.
What do you mean?
Well, so let me say that differently. All efforts that have been invested by brilliant people of the past have failed at that exercise. They just fail. And so I don't, the track record is so poor that going forward I have essentially zero confidence, near zero confidence that there will be fruitful things to emerge from the effort to reconcile. So, for example, if you knew nothing about science and you read, say, the Bible, the Old Testament, which in Genesis is an account of nature. That's what that is. And I said to you, give me your description of the natural world based only on this. You would say the world was created in 6 days, and that stars are just little points of light, much lesser than the sun. And in fact, they can fall out of the sky, right? Because that's what happens during the Revelation. One of the signs that the second coming is that the stars will fall out of the sky and land on Earth. To even write that means those things are. You have no concept of what the actual universe is. So everybody who tried to make proclamations about the physical universe based on Bible passages got the wrong answer. So what happened was, when science discovers things and you want to stay religious, or you want to continue to believe that the Bible is unerring, what you would do is, you would say, well, let me go back to the Bible and reinterpret it. Then you'd say things like, oh, they didn't really mean that literally, they meant that figuratively. So this whole sort of reinterpretation of how figurative the poetic passages of the Bible are came after science showed that this is not how things unfolded. And so the educated religious people are perfectly fine with that. It's the fundamentalists who want to say that the Bible is the literal truth of God, and want to see the Bible as a science textbook, who are knocking on the science doors of the schools, trying to put that content in the science. Enlightened religious people are not behaving that way. To say, yeah, science is cool, we're good with that, and use the Bible to get your spiritual enlightenment and your emotional fulfillment.
I have known serious religious people, not fundamentalists, who were scared when Carl Sagan opened his series with the words,
"The cosmos is all that is, or ever was, or ever will be."
But that scared them, because they interpret that to mean that if this is it, there's nothing else. No God and no life after.
For religious people, many people say, well, God is within you. Or God, there are ways that people have shaped this, rather than God as an old, gray-bearded man in the clouds. So if God is within you, what I'm sure Carl would say, in your mind. In your mind, and we can measure the neurosynaptic firings when you have a religious experience. We can tell you where that's happening, when it's happening, what you're feeling like at the time. So your mind, of course, is still within the cosmos.
But do you have any sympathy for people who seem to only feel safe in the vastness of the universe you describe in your show, if they can infer a personal God who makes it more hospitable to them, who cares for them?
In this, what we tell ourselves is a free country, which means you should have freedom of thought. I don't care what you think. I just don't. Go think whatever you want. Go ahead. Think that there's one God, 2 gods, 10 gods, or no gods. That is what it means to live in a free country. The problem arises is if you have a religious philosophy that is not based in objective realities that you then want to put in the science classroom. Then I'm going to stand there and say, no, I'm not going to allow you in the science classroom. I'm not telling you what to think. I'm just telling you in the science class, you're not doing science. This is not science. Keep it out. That's when I stand up. Otherwise, go ahead. I'm not telling you how to.
Don't you sometimes feel sad about breaking all these myths apart?
No, because I think it's some myths deserve to be broken apart out of respect for the human intellect. That no, when you're writhing on the ground and froth is coming out of your mouth, you're having an epileptic seizure. You have not been invaded by the devil. We got this one figured out, okay? I mean, discovery moves on. So I don't mind the power of myth and magic, but take it to the next frontier and apply it there. Don't apply it in places where we've long passed what we already know what's going on.
I think you must realize that some people are going to go to your show at the planetarium and they're going to say, aha, those scientists have discovered God. Because God, dark matter, is what holds this universe together.
Was that a question?
It's a statement. You know they're going to say that.
So the history of discovery, particularly cosmic discovery, but discovery in general, scientific discovery, is one where at any given moment there's a frontier. And there tends to be an urge for people, especially religious people, to assert that across that boundary into the unknown
is God.
Lies the handiwork of God. This shows up a lot. Newton even said it. He had his laws of gravity and motion, and he was explaining the moon and the planet. He was there. He doesn't mention God for any of that. And then he gets to the limits of what his equations can calculate. So can't quite figure this out. maybe God steps in and makes it right every now and then. That's where he invoked God. And Ptolemy, he bet on the wrong horse, but he was a brilliant guy. He formulated the geocentric universe with Earth in the middle. This is where we got epicycles and all the machinations of the heavens. There was still a mystery to him. He looked up and uttered the following words: when I trace at my pleasure the windings to and fro of the heavenly bodies. These are the planets going through retrograde and back. The mysteries of the earth. When I trace at my pleasure the windings to and fro of the heavenly bodies, I no longer touch earth with my feet. I stand in the presence of Zeus himself and take my fill of ambrosia. What he did was he didn't invoke Zeus to account for the rock that he's standing on or the air he's breathing. It was this point of mystery.
The point of unknown.
God. This, over time, has been described by philosophers as the God of the gaps. If that's where you're going to put your God in this world, then God is an ever-receding pocket of scientific ignorance. If that's how you're going to invoke God, if God is the mystery of the universe, these mysteries, we're tackling these mysteries one by one. If you're going to stay religious at the end of the conversation, God has to be more to you than just where science has yet to tread. So, to the person who says, maybe dark matter is God, if the only reason why you're saying it's because it's a mystery, then get ready to have that undone.
Anybody know that there's a heaven?
Neil deGrasse, and I don't even know how you guys are going to accept this kind of stuff. I'm just reaching out some thoughts. I find it fascinating, this stuff.
Believing something and using the methods and tools of science to establish what is objectively true. And what is objectively true is something that is true outside of your belief system. That's what science is.
Facts and belief. I know the religious people believe, the scientist says prove. What do you believe? What do you think happens when we die?
Well, so I can make some unassailable statements about what happens when you die. So you spend your life eating food. Food has a calorie content, and calorie is a source of energy. Calorie is a unit of energy. You bring it in, and then the energy is available for you to maintain your body temperature at nearly 100 degrees, is 98.6. How do you keep something at 100 degrees when nothing else around you is? You're burning energy to sustain that. Because biologically, we need to be at that temperature to function. Okay? You also need energy to walk and to move. That's why you eat food. The moment you die, what happens? You don't maintain the energy. Your temperature drops. How far does it drop? To room temperature. At a funeral, in the casket, if you touch the hand of the person in the casket, your first thought is, the body's cold. No, it's not. It's room temperature. But it's cold compared to 100 degrees. They're no longer burning this energy. Okay, so now, every one of your molecules has energy within it. If you get cremated, that energy gets released in the form of heat. And you heat the air, and that air radiates to space. You get buried, which is how I want my body to be disposed of. Bury me. Bury me. Because you know why? I don't want the energy content of my body to just get radiated out into space of no use to anybody. Put me in the ground. Let the worms, microbes, come in and out of my body. And the energy content of my body that I had assembled over my lifetime, consuming the flora and fauna of this earth, my body then returns to them. And thus is the cycle of life. I know that's going to happen because you can measure where the energy goes. And that's how I want to go out.
But you're
Not even sure why I made this video. I love Dr. Neil deGrasse Tyson. There's countless videos on stuff that he talks about, and there's a vast number of videos where he's talking on a plethora of different subjects. I just kind of tackled a few because I love him. Great guy. Listen, guys, that is going to wrap up for this video. Listen, make sure you hit that like button and subscribe. We've got some interviews coming up this week. We'll be talking to Skinny Keem, one of the world's best car thieves. And what else we got on our slate? We got some entrepreneurs, some young black women entrepreneurs that own a few salons and stuff. We want to get their perspective on stuff. That is coming up. But yeah, thank you guys for tuning in and this interesting stuff. Hop in the comments and tell me some stuff that like you want to see. What are your bedtime rabbit holes that you go down YouTube and explore? What's some recent rabbit holes that you've gone to? Let's talk about them. Until the next time, crime pays until it doesn't. Peace.